Hi, I'm Alexander Shaia, and the things that have shaped my life are being first-generation Lebanese, growing up in the South, growing up in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1950s, when Birmingham was a very difficult place, very much like South Africa. It was an apartheid city in the 1950s. And the deep wisdom of the earth that my grandparents gave me, and also a great love of a Christianity which is quite different from what many people today think about Christianity. The number one thing is trust yourself. Trust your questions. And when you go to an individual or to a community with your questions, see how those questions are received. You will begin to know that you're in the best place for yourself when you know that you can ask a question. No matter how silly or stupid or whatever you think in your head that question is, and the other person or the community that you ask that question receives that question as like the most beautiful Christmas gift ever, and they're just willing to help you take the bow off of it and carefully take off the exquisite Christmas wrappings, and then open the box, and then open another box, and get down to that what's core underneath that question. Because especially for us in the West, there's a question underneath our question, and there's a question underneath that one, and there's a question underneath that one. And you'll know you're in the best place for you when the person or the community that you're sitting with in no way makes you feel ashamed or feel guilt or feel less than, but you'll ask your question and they'll light up just like they won the lottery. Because when you're in that sort of a place with each other, you did just win the lottery. Because you're learning that that question is coming from some deep place inside of yourself, and it's a jewel. What I've discovered is that what mainly keeps us from compassion with others is what keeps us from compassion for self. I was greatly moved by Ram Dass's book many years ago, How Can I Help? In which he said basically that if our desire to just flow out to the world with love and wisdom and compassion, if that doesn't happen innately, it's because there is some fearful place inside of us which we need to extend that love and compassion to first. So I realize that oftentimes between introverts and extroverts that that the wheel of the dance may be different, that I think extroverts may go out to others with compassion, and by that process find a way to extend compassion within. And it may be just the opposite dance with introverts, in terms of introverts going into those places inside which are very hard to love and hold, and that from the loving and the holding of that interior space, moving out with that grace to others. This is the great paradox for all of us, that as each one of us become more unique, fully unique, we touch something which is utterly about oneness and all. And it's this, it's a tremendous paradox that I am hopeful that as I get more and more gray hair, that I'm living into this for myself. But as I come home to who I truly am and know how utterly different that is from anyone else that I know, I find that exquisite diversity is exactly the place of our oneness. So in the West, our way to oneness is to move ever more through our common spiritual practice into being the unique person that Spirit wishes each of us to be. And in my work and in my book, I talk about that we are starting a new human era. And that era now is about how for each one of us to be truly who we are and bound together in community and in communion. And I love the Thomas Merton quote that the deepest form of communication is not communication. It's communion. And we're already one, though we fear we're not. You start by following the question. You start with allowing that autumn to, in some ways, unsettle you. And remember, autumn starts with the beautiful colors of the leaves on the trees, that then the winds come and those leaves fall off and they turn brown and the bareness of the tree becomes more evident. So allow the journey into some deep place within, which is your true home. Most of us in the West live in an outer home which may be well appointed and don't know a core inner home, which is there. It's absolutely there. But we need to go down into that place through our spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, all the various things that all of our traditions have taught. And sometimes when we get into that inner house, we'll find, oh, it looks like the summer home that got shuttered up long time ago. And it's time for us to go in, throw the windows open, and begin to let fresh breezes blow through it. But it waits there inside each one of us. And what I'm discovering through my work, which is both to describe a universal core to all traditions, but to help people in each tradition go to that special place in the tradition that brings their heart alive. My work is not about Christians becoming Buddhists or Buddhists becoming Christians, to use that as a metaphor, but it is to know that each one of us are walking the journey by the metaphor, by the prayer, by the text, by the practices that open our hearts to the deep home inside each and inside all.